Welcome to PCB Chat. I'm Andy Shaughnessy, Content Architect with the Printed Circuit Engineering Association. Joining me today is Wally Rhines, spokesman for the ESD Alliance and former CEO of Mentor Graphics. How are you doing, Wally?
I'm doing fine, Andy. Glad to have you back.
Glad to be back. Wally joins us each quarter to go over the Alliance's most recent quarterly report, which covers all things EDA, semiconductor, PCB design, software tool revenue, IP, SIP, equipment, supply chain, employee trends. And today we'll be discussing the results for the fourth quarter of 2025. So Wally, why don't you start with the highlights? It looks like this is our 20th straight quarter of year-on-year gains. Is that right?
That's right. The EDA industry has really been healthy now for quite some time. So another double-digit growth quarter, 10.3% overall for the industry. It's mixed results around the world, but overall very positive. It's an industry that continues to grow and reflects, I think, all of the design activity in the world. We had very strong growth for overall, for the regionally, for Europe and North America and the Asia Pacific region. Not so strong in Japan this time, but very volatile. We go quarter to quarter. So North America led the way this time with the highest growth rate. Mm-hmm. And I think product-wise, we saw the greatest strength in the front end, CAE, and right. In semiconductor IP. But overall, a net positive.
And PCB was up a little bit.
It was very definitely. PCB grew overall 1.8% worldwide. That's less than it has been in recent times. It's got a four-quarter moving average of 4.5%. Still positive, though. What pulled it down was Europe, which is unusual. Europe is not very far down. All the other regions, Asia Pacific was also not that strong. It was down a little as well. So those worked against the overall growth. But quarter to quarter, it doesn't mean a trend. And so I think looking back at
And now a word from our sponsor. Join the electronics design and manufacturing industry at PCB East 2026, coming April 28th to May 1st to the DCU Center in Worcester, Massachusetts. Sponsored by the Printed Circuit Engineering Association, PCB East features more than 120 hours of expert electronics design, manufacturing, and assembly training. The annual one-day exhibition will be held April 29th and features major semiconductor companies such as AMD, Altera, Lattice Semiconductor, Microchip, and Samtec, along with leading software developers and manufacturers. Registration for the conference and exhibition is now open. Be sure to book your spot. For more information about PCB East, visit pcbeast.com.
What do you think is driving the growth in the Americas? We just keep seeing that, continuously.
Yeah, a lot of things going on. Of course, the report doesn't tell us that. I can speculate. One thing is that the U.S. economy, relative to the rest of the world, has continued to be pretty strong. We have manufacturing tends to be increasing in the U.S. A little bit of the protectionism or isolationism that seems to be emerging around the world. So that causes additional design activity. Mm-hmm. The design for systems companies tends to be more regional anyway. So the things that I think are a little more nebulous. We have a car industry sort of in chaos because of the failure of electronic vehicles to grow as rapidly as projected. So that would decrease design, but on the other hand, whenever there's change, then new designs are required. And whenever there are new technologies, new types of components, then people do redesigns of printed circuit boards. And while automotive is big, there are lots of other industries that are moving along and fairly healthy, and especially the computer industry with servers and other peripheral equipment for supporting basically the boom in AI, I think generates a lot of design activity.
And it looks like Asia Pacific was up somewhat too, doing pretty well.
It was for PCB, it wasn't so strong, but overall, Asia Pacific was grew almost as fast as North America. It was up in total for EDA 11.3%, weak in the PCB and also in semiconductor IP from reporting companies. I suspect that is largely from China, that's become a weakness as more and more export restrictions and other things cause the Chinese companies to be more cautious about buying from U.S. suppliers.
Are you seeing any changes as far as the sales in China due to any of this international sort of geopolitical intrigue that we have going on between the U.S. and China? Is there?
Well, we certainly have seen a trend since the intrigue took off. Asia Pacific used to be our fastest growing region, and within Asia Pacific, China was our fastest growing region. And I think that's been slowed down both from the side of U.S.-based EDA companies, which is most of the EDA industry, being more cautious and having to deal with named entities in China that they can no longer sell to, but also the Chinese government placing priority on use of EDA products that are developed locally. So both of those working against it. That said, EDA in China overall grew about 6.9% quarter to quarter compared to the same quarter a year before. And the 4 quarters basically flat. So not as rapid as North America and the other countries in Asia, but still positive growth, and that hasn't been true in all the recent quarters. IP was on the negative side. I think that's the same story, caution about using IP provided from U.S. suppliers.
Were there any trouble areas that you think that we should keep an eye on as far as the tools or regions of the world?
Well, if I look across and see where we see some red flags, I don't think, once again, the quarterly data indicates anything that's can be called a trend. The SIP, the Silicon IP, from our reporting companies, the reporting companies are really, for the IP business, everybody but ARM and the Asian suppliers. We're negative in Japan and the PAC Rim, but very positive in the rest of the world. In North America and Europe, they were up in the mid-20s in % growth rate, and the non-reporting companies, ARM and a few others, were up even more. So it doesn't sound like anything's really weakening. It sounds like there's a lot of IC design going on because that's who buys most of the IP. So I don't think anything that we should worry about in terms of overall broadly weak markets. In fact, overall IP really had very healthy growth around the world. The reporting companies at 7% and the non-reporting companies at 25%. So really healthy. The IP business is doing well.
Back on our side, on the PCB side, we're seeing designers and double E's retiring just, every day right now. But it looks like somebody's buying new seats of PCB design software, right?
They sure are, and I can tell you what they're using it for, because I know the growth rate for the same quarter a couple years ago, and there are positive areas and some negative areas. On the positive side, the PCB schematic capture is a 15% growth. That's a very good number. That's sort of a foundation software for people starting designs.
Right.
Analysis is almost always positive. It's around 10% this time. And real strength in library and data management, which is a little more volatile in terms of purchases. And then there's this category of other PCB that includes a whole lot of miscellaneous things, but is not a small category that didn't grow. The noticeable named ones that had negative growth in this quarter, but do not have for the full year, were in the physical layout and the package design. Package design is sort of an anomaly because not some companies report their package design under PCB, some in the separate category, some throw it in with other design categories in PCB or in physical design. So it sort of depends. There are large semiconductor companies that use adaptations of their printed circuit board layout to do complex packaging design. So they show up elsewhere. So a little tough to tell. There are only about $100 million worth reported in the subcategory of printed circuit board that is designated as package design. So that's not the whole world of package design. On the other hand, the physical layout is a big category, $630 million. It goes up and down. The last four quarters, it's been in slight decline, 3.5%. This quarter was a weaker quarter, -9%. But in general, it and the PCB analysis are the two really broad categories of software that is sold for printed circuit board design.
I wonder if the increase in library data management might be because people are just trying to get ahead of any potential supply chain issues.
It could be. That's hard to attach individual things to because library data management tends to be an enterprise-wide adoption. And so it takes a long period of time and bringing up all the various organizations, especially in large enterprises. And then when they do, they go out and they sign a big contract. And I think that tends to have more impact than the general increase in awareness of supply chain issues. But the increase in supply chain issues, as you highlight, is something that has taken on the awareness of the whole design world in recent years. Really over the last 3 or 4 years when we had the shortages that we did, they've become much more wary of supply chain. And one thing that library data management does for you is it lets you track who are reliable suppliers and who are the alternative suppliers, and lets people, especially supply chain managers, plan their operations more effectively.
Right. I was thinking about any effect that the tariff intrigue might have had. Did you see any direct or indirect results that you could divine, maybe?
Well, I haven't, but the tariffs in general, the U.S. is the aggressor on the tariff side,
right?
And there's not a lot of EDA software that comes from other countries. It's a U.S.-dominated business. The only real change in recent times has been an increase in the number of Chinese EDA companies. Unfortunately, most of them don't report into the database, so you don't see that. So most of the numbers that end up in the database are exports, mostly from the U.S.
Right.
And so the tariffs can affect them in the sense that some countries may have counter tariffs, but in general, it shouldn't affect us that much.
So how much of this is affected, if at all, by AI? I mean...
So that's an interesting one. Once again, the data doesn't survey that aspect, but if you look at where is rapid AI adoption occurring, a lot of U.S. companies are revamping their design flows to take advantage of what's provided, especially in IC design, where automated generation of RTL and test benches and debug and other things have really accelerated the process. And in general, what happens is if you accelerate the process, then companies do more designs because they can, because with the existing capacity, they can address more variants and address markets more thoroughly. So that could very well be a cause of using increased software just because they become more efficient and they can move faster with it.
Right. Among PCB designers especially, there's not a lot of, they're very reluctant when it comes to AI.
I personally think we're going to help make people's jobs more interesting. We're going to get rid of so much of the drudgery that you had to deal with and free up more and more time to do innovative things and to put designs in perspective and figure out how to optimize them. And sometimes that optimization will be just more vibing, more going back and digging deeper and deeper into the optimization. But PCB design's an interesting one because you have the principal dimension for reducing power and improving performance and taking care of noise and so on is a physical design problem. And so the database for understanding behavior can be built up very substantially. And so AI lends a hand to identify the places where you need to pay more attention to opportunities to improve an overall design.
It's funny because designers will say, they make a living off of change, but they don't want to change.
Well, and it's true. One of the things that makes EDA a great business is that engineers don't want to change. And so once they get a tool chain that works well for them and they've figured out all the bugs and how to work around them, then they don't want to switch to another one, which they figure they'll have to relearn. That's certainly the good news. The bad news about that is that they don't change. So new innovators who come in the industry with better products have a tough time getting them accepted.
Right. We talked a little bit about supply chain. Are you seeing any trends? Are there any potential shortages? Anything you're seeing out there concerning?
Well, once again, the survey doesn't ask those questions, so I don't get the insight there. And on the just my own involvement in the industry, I think the good news is that usage is growing. We're having a very strong semiconductor growth year, probably 25% for last year, and still holding up strong this year, which indicates demand is strong. But the demand has been driven very heavily by compute servers, data centers, things like that. The demand for the less integrated components, discretes, opto, general automotive, and things like that has been much weaker. And so we saw most of the growth driven both by memory and by logic for high-end integrated circuits. Memory's been a tremendous swing. The numbers for memory are almost unbelievable. For those of us who used to work in the memory business, to see this kind of pricing and see this kind of sustained demand for HBMs, high bandwidth memories, just phenomenal. So the three largest, SK Hynix, Samsung, and Micron, are just rolling in demand they can't meet. They're having to schedule orders and deal with the supply chain problems you're referring to. And I talked to a CFO at a leading memory company, and he said it's almost worse than the downturn because they have so much difficulty keeping up.
Well, is there anything else you want to add, Wally?
I think you've covered the territory. The geographic variability, and there was some. The product variability, again, some. But the general results that come back are that EDA is really a good business to be in if you're selling. And it's a good business to be in if you're buying because of the impact of change that AI is bringing to modernize the tools and the continuing flow of new innovations into the industry.
Well, good. Well, it's been great talking to you, Wally, as usual. I know I'll be seeing you on the road somewhere. So
I hope we do. We'll meet. If not, we'll see you at DAC maybe. And I don't think I'll be at PCB West, but anyway, we will intersect.
Okay. And again, I've been speaking with Wally Rhines, I'm Andy Shaughnessy for PCEA. Thanks for listening.